This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Ye hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I am your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz, welcome back to our show. Tonight's episode, we are reviewing Season 1, Episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall of WandaVision. Monica plots a return. Wanda navigates unsettling complications, and Vision forms a new alliance. Our director, once again, is the great Matt Shackman. Cameron Squires and Jack Schaefer get our... are they both getting creative bites this week? What? Let me see here. No, okay, so Cameron Squires... Hello, Squire. Cameron Squires... didn't win. They earned. They worked hard. They earned that written by credit. Jack Schaefer, of course, she's rolling in it. She has got the created by credit. She don't even have to show up for work now. She's got that created by. She's getting that royalty money.
Yeah.
Yes. Of course, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee credited with creating Wanda Maximoff. They get their created bys. Roy Thomas and John Buscema get that Vision created by credit. Our head writer, the head of all writing, is, of course, the one and only Jack Schaefer. So, hey, she doesn't have to, but she's still in there working every day, writing what she has to write. And, of course, this episode has three executive story editors: Peter Cameron, Bobak Esfarjani, and Mackenzie Dorr. No regular story editors, they're just all executives, because, now we're kind of a top-heavy organization. But then the three people who are doing all that hard work day in, day out, Megan McDonald, Laura Doney, and Cameron Squires. Hey, she got the written by credit this episode. Those are our staff writers, working diligently and tirelessly behind the scenes, waiting for their cameo. All right, man. Okay, so this is the Wanda has a hangover episode. Because we do wake up and we do see Wanda.
Well, let's start off with the title sequence first.
Okay.
It was The Office, so I mean.
Oh well, yeah,
that was pretty cool. And the two shows they picked a reference for breaking the fourth wall were The Office and Modern Family. So I thought
that was very nice. Although, as shown previously, that whole breaking the fourth wall thing, that started with Malcolm in the Middle. And really, arguably, breaking the fourth wall started with Shakespeare, because that's what all those soliloquies are, to be or not to be. It's literally the character turning to the audience and saying, to be or not to be. That is.
I never looked at it that way. Is that the way that it was intended when it's written?
Yeah, really. Who else are they talking to? They turn to the audience and they start talking. What do you think is happening?
I always thought it was an internal sort of a verbalized internal dialogue. Myself.
There are ways you can take it. Although sometimes, and again, it depends. You got to remember this is after the bear baiting, which is what people came to see. This is sort of the mid-credit show is that Shakespeare guy. That's really where that comes from. And then, of course, arguably the Greek chorus, even going even further back, that's also very fourth wall breaking, because they're the ones informing you of the story thus far.
Like, for all the Shakespeare that I read in school and performed in class and whatnot, I wish I would have had that thought then, because that would have been such an interesting and different way to play everything that I've, played with before. That would have been so interesting to have that insight before.
Yeah.
That you could
Well,
to the audience.
Well, where I learned that from? Gilligan's Island.
Really?
And really, because they do this episode where they do the musical, and they're going to adapt. Adapt Hamlet, and there's actually a great scene where Marianne is playing. I want to say, is it? Oh, I can't remember the name of the characters, but it was like Hamlet's buddy, Hamlet's best friend, the son of what's his name? I'm just coming up with the wrong names. The guy who gets stabbed, Polonius, the son of Polonius. I've read his name, but he does this where Marianne just literally turns to the audience and says, if I don't listen, I don't, because he's going to give him this whole speech about, frugality, and he looks at the audience and says, if I don't listen to a story, I don't get my money, so I'll listen. And that's what that's what soliloquies are. It is literally this person. Yes, sometimes it is very much the very internalized monologue, but sometimes it is literally Puck at the end of Midsummer Night's Dream saying, "If we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended. That you have but slumbered here while these visions did appear, and this weak and idle theme, no more yielding than a dream." But this dream, is that a reference to Nightmare? It wasn't in the episode, but I just made it, so it has to be canon. In this episode, we have Wanda waking up after her as she says, nightly excess, and which she really, and that's the thing, this is why this is the breaking the fourth wall episode, because in this episode, Wanda just says, we've all been there, we've gone out, we've been a little too stressed, we've expanded the borders of the false world we've created, where, it is pure ambush bug, which is the best kind of fourth wall breaky. But as we see, as we are going to see, this actually feeds into the overall narrative of the story, because it is fascinating to me. And one of the things that keeps on happening in this episode is that, that she's losing control of the reality. She has the reality, but she can't keep it under control. And of course, within that, you have the aspect of it that, as I said, it's like she woke up the next night from a wild party. She's even still wearing the costume, which is like, a typical visual cue that, you woke up the next night and you're wearing something that is just not what you would normally wear. And then she says,
also not the sense that the fact that her powers are weaker, or that stuff was, flickering in and out of, different periods or different versions of itself or whatever. But what if it's not her that's not able to control it, but that things are winding down because the goal has been accomplished? You know how, like, when, a candidate knows that he's going to win or going to lose, the campaign starts, letting people go and condensing, and that sort of, that's also the sense I get, like, whoever is behind this, they've gotten what they wanted. It's those kids, right?
Well, see, that is where it always gets a little more complex. And I always say this, everyone wants to look at the comic books for their guide. And the reality is that if you're just looking at the comic books, you are making a big mistake, because they never follow the comic books exactly. Now granted, you can, because I'll do this later with discussing Agnes, which I will say that the character that she is revealed to be has never really been antagonistic. However, to be fair, she has been manipulative, and this is something they do with Damon Hellstrom a lot too, which is where he'll ally himself with the villains because he is the son of Satan. But that's just because, he's only evil in our human moral sense. As Doctor Strange once said about Dormammu, he is evil, but only in our limited mortal sense, and that's just an interesting way to look at it. But in this case, I don't think she is doing anything untoward because of the way that they do the reveal, but we'll get to that in a minute. First off, the kids. The kids are the kids are important, obviously, which we know. But I think there is this quality of the kids where the kids, as they're coming into their powers, are more than Agnes was expecting. I think that is one of the things that was... So, just to give people some background on this, so Wanda wakes up, everything starts glitching, and it starts rewinding back to what it was at the beginning. It starts going back to the 60s version of things, the 80s version of things, and then, the 50s version of things. And when that happens, and it's kind of, I thought it was interesting where when she first grabs it, it's Westview Dairy almond milk, and then at the end it's just a big old 50s, milkman glass bottle of milk. And then I like how she smells the milk just to make sure it hasn't turned. But it is from the 50s.
Was milk pasteurized back then even?
Oh, yeah. No, milk was by the 50s, yeah.
Okay.
No, you really stopped getting unpasteurized milk. There were laws passed against unpasteurized milk in the 30s. Because, quite frankly, yeah, too many people were dying from it.
Wow.
Because, that's the thing. You can have unpasteurized milk if you have a cow. So if you have a cow and you milk your cow... Or if you trust the
source and that they're doing it in a way that...
I mean, literally, you have to, it has to be that day's milk. Milk has a short shelf life.
I see.
And, once you take it away from the cow, you got to sell that milk that day. Or you got to turn it into cheese, one or the other. You got to figure out what you're doing with this milk once you get that milk. You've got to, it's a process to deal with unrefrigerated dairy. And even with refrigeration, it's still a process because if it ever gets unrefrigerated, the clock starts again, and that's a thing with that. But that's a whole thing about dairy and unpasteurized milk,
Dig it.
I'm not against it. I'm just saying if you're buying it in a store, that's not your best bet. That unpasteurized milk, you should probably be going to a dairy. If you go to Amish country and they're selling milk, that's probably milk you can trust. You want to drive every day to Amish country to get your milk for the day, that's an option for you. My recommendation to you. Just to avoid the very horrible diseases that can hit you when you drink unpasteurized milk that has started to turn. Because it is, it's milk. It is basically a living petri dish.
Do the Amish also make unpasteurized milk cheese?
Oh, I'm sure they do. I'm sure the Amish make everything. I mean, they're the Amish. What are they going to do? They got all and I shouldn't say the Amish because the Amish are a specific subset, and really a lot of times you're just dealing with Mennonites, which the Amish are a particularly orthodox set.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, because as people will tell you, there are Mennonites in New York City, and they just they're basically aesthetics. They live very simple lives. You can usually tell them because they wear blue denim. That's usually the way you tell the difference between the Amish and Mennonites is Mennonites just wear simple clothing. So it's a lot of blue denim, blue denim work shirts, blue denim pants, because it's the simplest garment you can have. You can do work in. And even Mennonites, they will work with computers because a computer is a tool like any other tool. And you can work with it because it is to do the thing. So I remember I was reading an article once about a Mennonite accountant. Said, yeah, well, it'd be ridiculous for me to be an accountant and not use a computer. That's just, but I don't go surfing it. I don't go surfing the computer watching Disney Plus shows.
It's like Mandalorians who take their helmet off.
Well, no, it's like, like Mandalorians who do take their helmet off because it's like, there's a level to this where it gets a little more intense. But now, if you go with the actual Amish, then that is just like the hardcore Amish are like, no, we don't do anything except what we have to.
Well, that's really fascinating. I want to go visit Amish country now because you can't find unpasteurized cheese here, so that might be a place where you can get really, really neat cheese.
Well, there might be health laws about selling unpasteurized cheese too, so I don't know. Because obviously when you're making your cheese, well, you got to go to Europe. You want that.
Yeah.
You want your cheese with the worms in it, you got to go to Europe.
Fair enough.
It's extra protein, man.
Do you think that was anybody on the milk carton, the missing kid, or that was just like a random?
Oh, yes. I actually, that's the thing. Because, okay, and this is a really weird, obscure thing. The kid with the bowl cut, I immediately thought of Franklin Richards.
Oh.
Because during the mutant massacre, there was a wanted poster that was like produced of like mutant kids, and one of them was little Franklin Richards with his little bowl cut, and it just says "Mutie" written across it. And I looked and I said, "Oh man, that looks like Franklin Richards." It just triggered that memory of me of that image from the mutant massacre that was during the Mutant Registration Act, which was like, I want to say back in the 80s, when they first started registering all the mutants. And it got to be a big controversy because basically everyone's like Captain America, and that's the John Walker Captain America, has to track down mutants who aren't registered and like bring them in because it's against the law to be an unregistered mutant. Anyway, so I don't know if that's a Franklin Richards reference, but as I've said, because Agnes does make this statement when she tells the kids, when she offers to take the kids off of Wanda's hands for the day, she says, "It's okay, I don't bite." And they cut to her and says, "I did bite a kid once." And part of me thinks, oh man, because she was Franklin Richards' nanny. And, as I've always said, the thing about her being Franklin Richards' nanny is it really showed just how smart Reed Richards was, because he understood that any tech-based protection he could give to his child, it would be something that he knew how it worked, which means that if he knew how to make it, he knew how to break it. And if he knew how to break it, then other people could theoretically figure out how to break it. But if he was protected by something that he did not understand at all, like a magical being, that kid would be safe, because his tech-based villains would want to approach it with a tech thing, and it's something that is going to confound their tech. So he really thought outside the box on that one.
Interesting.
Yes. So that's an interesting thing, and that's headcanon. I don't think that's official, but it just makes sense to me, unless the idea is like, no, Agatha Harkness was just manipulating Reed Richards to say, "Bring me your magical child, Reed Richards."
Although if that's technology he doesn't understand, perhaps that's possible.
Yeah, maybe a little from column A, a little from column B. But anyway, getting back to this story, we do have two separate, because we see the separate base camps being built up. We see the official sword base camp,
Hayward's camp,
and like his lieutenant says, "Boy, it's a good thing she pumped the brakes," and he's like, "Yeah, I feel totally safe. Yeah, I feel so lucky. After she has, of course, in the last episode, taken most of the first half of the camp before they were able to get away and evacuate. What was I going to say? So they're pulled back, and in that moment, well, Hayward says, we're going to get ready to launch, which is an interesting turn of phrase. We're going to get ready to launch, because he knows that, because he wants to attack. Which, again, getting to that question of the aerospace engineer, although we met someone this episode who is arguably the aerospace engineer, or is not, and I actually went back and forth on this, because I actually had the feeling that she couldn't be the aerospace engineer, because we don't see her doing any actual engineering, because we see other people in the background that are actually at the computers and doing things, but then when I realized when they do the launch, she is actually at mission control. So arguably she is the engineer.
And you didn't get the sense from the way they spoke to each other and the way they greeted each other that they were expecting to see each other. So she wasn't just...
No, they were definitely expecting to see each other.
Right.
They know each other. That's the thing. My own opinion is this person is her Skrull friend, which is what most people have said. Because when it was clear that these two have a connection to each other and a connection to Maria Rambeau. So the idea that they are all allied makes a lot of sense. And the idea that she is a Skrull, that is, because we do see her form the friendship with the Skrull at end of the Captain Marvel movie. So timelines being what they are, you could see that happening. It would be an interesting aspect of this because we do see that the Major is a little bit older, which would make sense if Monica
was around when Maria was running things.
Well, yeah, no. Well, because they both would have been around when Maria was running things. But the idea is that if the Major is a little bit older, Major Gooden is a little bit older, it would imply that Monica got blipped and Major Gooden did not. And so as a Skrull, she would have had to continue to age herself another 5 years, whereas Monica could come back not age.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of these very interesting aspects of the concept of the blip, is that you get this jump in people's ages. And people that were very close friends, now they can be a little more separate in ages and have separate lives because one person literally stopped 5 years ago. One person literally, was a senior in high school. Now the other person is a grad student, in college, or, some other concept like that. That difference in age. And it was one of the real disappointments I kind of felt in Spider-Man Far From Home, was that they didn't, all of our friend group, good thing we all got blipped,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that they, like, some of them had siblings that actually were now older than them, and they kind of hinted at that, but I really felt that would have been interesting if, like, one of their friends had, like,
and a little too convenient that none of them did.
Exactly. Like, that would have been a great time to make Flash Thompson kind of now be a big jock guy. But obviously you don't want to change the actor because we like the actor, so, it's all these kinds of things. All these things that were a little bit different. But, you can't do Photoshop for the whole movie. You did that with Captain America. Tristan was saying they could have just Photoshopped him onto a bigger body. Yes, I know it's a joke, Tristan, but anyway. Moving right along. So they do roll out the rover, and they said, hope this meets your specs. But it does seem like that was kind of an off-the-shelf rover. Like, they didn't really have to do a lot of modifications to it. It was, this is just, okay, these are the things you need. We actually have something like that in stock.
Yeah, I wonder if this is just like the R&D team for other teams and, like their Q.
Yeah, I mean, that could be that. This could be, this could be the mission specialists. These could be the guys the people who build out the things. And to that extent, this person could be the
engineer.
The engineer, or at least leading the engineering team. Because obviously it is a whole team of people who are loyal to Maria, which again suggests that, yes, there is this loyalty issue. This is this question of a lot of people knew Hayward was trouble. People knew Hayward was not the guy that they needed to be in charge.
Even the soldier standing next to him when he says, "Get ready, we're about to launch," looks at him really strange, almost like disapproving. She might be a mole.
Yeah. Or she might just be someone who's wising up, That's the thing. It's like, that's one of the things that, you always have to remember this about, like, Sword and S.H.I.E.L.D. and even Hydra. Because someone was making this point that, Wanda joined Hydra. Well, no, Wanda was working with S.H.I.E.L.D. because Hydra was S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time. So whether or not she thought she was joining Hydra, or she thought she was working with S.H.I.E.L.D. against superpowered beings, because obviously S.H.I.E.L.D. has a reason to deal with superpowered beings, she could have always entered into things with that best of intentions and then have it be undone. So, at least that's one theory. What else do we have? So Monica does try to go into the hex, and it was an interesting thing they said, where they said the dome's density.
It's matching your density.
It's matching your density. And of course, being able to match your density, that's a power of the vision.
Huh.
So density control, that is 100% something that the vision does, which again goes into this idea, the idea that there is more going on than we know. And that is what I really think is the real point of this, is that as much as they reveal, everything they reveal, it's always revealed with a very wink and a nod. Like, almost like you're being led by the nose to something. Everyone always said, Agnetha Harkness from the very start Agnes. Sorry, I just gave the reveal. Agnes is Agatha Harkness, we learn at the end. But everything about that character, every bit we got about her was intended to make us know who she was.
Right.
When she has the name Agnes, they reveal her name as Agnes. They have her laughing. They have, they show her dressed as a witch. There were even set photos of her in her, 16th century garb. There were all these things that they intentionally leaked to us to show us this mystery. And when we do get that reveal at the end of this, of it was the Agatha all along, it is also heavy-handed and so tongue-in-cheek. Like, oh, I bet you didn't even realize what we were doing. And the thing is that, well, obviously we realized, and that you're calling that out like you thought, oh, we didn't think you would figure that out. It's
but
like,
isn't it also like a sitcom-y trope?
Well, I mean, it could be, but then again, if Agnes is the one, that's the thing. One of the things that Hayward says is the broadcasts have stopped. But within the dome, the broadcast is still going. The show still goes on.
Right.
And so this is for someone else's benefit. The story we're seeing is always for someone else's benefit.
It's always for the benefit of getting Wanda to do something, it seems like.
Well, maybe, or maybe this is just... And again, I go to this weird idea. It's like, to me, there is this idea that people are recuperating, which is what you said, which is because, I mean, the idea that, well, things are wearing down because we've accomplished what we needed. But maybe
right.
what we needed was to help people repair themselves and build themselves and get back to whatever happened. Because I still don't believe Wanda was the cause. I don't believe Wanda was the cause. I don't believe Agnes was the cause. I don't even believe Vision was the cause. I think whatever the cause was something that Hayward did. I think Hayward tried to do something.
So how did Agatha get there? Was Agatha working with Hayward in this scenario?
Well, see, that's another question about Westview. And what happened with Westview. Now,
she was in town when they dropped the dome on them?
Well, see, that's what's interesting about Westview. And again, something that's interesting about Jimmy Woo. And of all the gin joints in all the world, why did all this happen at Westview? And there was one interesting theory that was put out there, was that Westview is actually New Salem.
Right.
And
okay.
New Salem is essentially a colony of witches that left Salem after the witch trials to form a new place to live. And it was like one of these places that existed. You could drive through it, but you never really remembered driving through it. You couldn't see it. And the idea would be then that when the cops say there's no such place as Westview, it's not the hex. It's just Westview's nature that you can't see it.
Huh.
And as I've said before, the idea of, although there are many westward things in New Jersey, there's not like a west view. You don't really think about looking westward in New Jersey because everything is eastward. That's where the city is. That's where the ocean is. That's where all these great things are. The West, the West is fine, but it's like
almost a perfect name for a place you want to hide, where you don't want anyone's view.
It's where you're not looking. No one's looking west. You have to get really high up to actually get it. So like when I lived in the Colonnades in Newark, you would have I had a west view. It was actually really nice because you were high enough up that you could see the mountains and you could see the sunset on the mountains, and that was good. But if you're actually like at ground level in New Jersey, you don't see, it's not as majestic as it really can be. So I actually think that that's sort of a thing. Like no one's going to look west, so we'll call ourselves Westview. That's just a random theory, but who knows? As it stands, though, we don't get a lot with Hayward in this, but we do get, one of the things we get is we actually do join up with the circus at the very start with Vision. And
I'm upset that we didn't guess that would be her profession.
Escape artist?
Yeah.
It makes
circus
sense.
Overtook her reality, and she was in cuffs. That should have been an easy one, but very nice.
Yeah, but, if we don't think that they're going to be part of the circus, that's the thing.
Well, we should have. Everybody else became a part of the circus. That's why I'm just,
That's true.
That's obviously she's going to be part of the circus, too.
Yeah. I liked her thing about, she wanted to be the bearded lady, but, her alabaster skin wasn't fooling anyone. But one of the things I thought that was interesting about that was that when we see her, she, again, is just in front of the truck in the chains. So, like, as if she was just waiting for her cue.
Right.
Literally waiting for Vision to come and cue her. Which is also an interesting aspect, especially because everyone else is reacting to Vision, not as the Vision, but as, oh, you're one of the, you must be the new clown and you're already in makeup, so that's good. I'm a little disappointed that they didn't want to do because that's like in Hulk #2, I think, where the Hulk hiding out pretends he's a robot in the circus and he just starts juggling elephants. So I was really hoping there was going to be a big juggling elephant scene with Vision. They did not do that, and that's fine. But it's like, oh man, they made him a clown. Oh, he's a robot clown, just like the Hulk pretended to be a robot clown. And that is way too deep divey. I'm sure they talked about it like back and forth. So way we can get this scene, and that would be so cool. They're like, yes, but it is so much a meaningless Easter egg just for like 6 guys out there. So let's not do that. If we can't make it work as a major moving forward to the plot, we're just going to leave it be.
There may be opportunities for it another time.
Yes. But also, and this is another interesting aspect of it, when Darcy gets pulled out of her vision. Well, her vision. When Darcy gets pulled out of it, there's this whole situation where Vision looks at the mime who's holding the tray or is in the box and he goes, oh no, that mime, his tray is too heavy. And Darcy looks and says, oh no, you're back. You're bad back. And that's when he sees him and he does his little head tappy thing. It builds into this weird idea that if this is all being controlled, then someone is wanting these steps to happen. That these are things that are meant to happen because that scene plays out like a weird scene where she knows this guy, oh, and he has a bad back, and his bad back from his miming, it's too heavy. And, it's wacky, it's silly, but it also, if all those pieces fit together, they were meant to fit together that way. And one of the things I think is very interesting in this, and again, this is the other thing that tells you that everything that happens in this scene is exactly what's supposed to happen.
Until they steal a car and break away, I think, because the guy tries to fight them back.
No.
Itself is fighting back against them.
See, that's where you're wrong. Because actually, when they steal the car, that is exactly what was supposed to happen. And do you know why?
They're trying to keep him away, I guess?
No. No, they want him to follow these steps. And the way you know it is because when she goes into the car, there's a hula dancer on the hood ornament that has the key in it. That she knows that's where the key is. I believe that was... Actually, wait, no, you know what? I'm mistaken. That's actually an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reference. Ooh, that's interesting. So I was trying to think that maybe the car they had in Thor, in the first Thor, had a hula dancer on it, which I think it might have as well. But that the hula dancer was there, and she knows to get the key out of the hula dancer. That tells me that whoever is in charge of this, whoever is controlling this, is trying to get people to go to certain places at certain times. Which is, again, why it goes to this idea that there's an attempt to heal people that people don't realize. Because, of course, as I've said, when you wake up in the hospital, it is traumatizing. And you don't know what's going on, and you're scared and you're frightened. But when Vision pulls Darcy out, she's just like, she needs a minute, but then she's fine. Because she doesn't need to be healed. She's just here to keep them at bay.
And not only that, but she's aware of that having happened to somebody. She has seen it happen, so she knows to expect it. When she goes, oh, and she remembers that moment of being usurped by the Hex, and she's like, oh. So it's an easy thing for her to come to terms with because she already knows it.
Well, yeah, but I also think that there is this idea that she doesn't need to heal.
Maybe.
And maybe even the idea that everyone being turned into clowns, shows in that moment that they are meant to just be there in a holding pattern. Because if you think about it, a town doesn't have a circus always on its outskirts. These are people that have just come in. They're going to be kicked out. They're going to be kicked out eventually. But right now, we need to just have a place to put them in this universe. And in this universe, I think, is a central point because we are going to get to the idea of the Nexus. Now, our ad this week is for a mental health drug called Nexus. And this has two possible meanings. One is that Wanda is what's called a Nexus being, which means that she does exist across multiple universes.
The idea they're saying that everybody exists across multiple universes?
Well, except that her multiversal existence is something that is tied to each other.
Right, so she has agency over all of them, and she chooses at will to be in whatever. Not that there's a version existing
like that.
With autonomy of itself. She had...
Exactly. Now, Owen Reese, the Molecule Man, is a similar kind of character who exists over multiple universes and is actually was actually something created by the Beyonders to help destroy universes. But that's a other bag of hammers. But in this situation, but the other Nexus, actually, there's two other Nexuses. One, as Tristan pointed out, the Nexus is what brings you into the Fortnite universe. That the Marvel heroes and villains, when they came to Fortnite, came through the Nexus. But the central idea of the Nexus is that the Nexus of all realities, which is supposed to be in a swamp in Florida, though could just as easily be in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, which is where...
Like the Dark Tower in a vacant lot in Times Square.
I mean, possibly. But this is actually one of my things. So in this episode, so before we get to that, let's talk about Monica pushing herself through the shield. And again, when she does this, we do see that there's an infinite variations of Monica. That here's this Monica and that Monica and this other Monica, and she has to forcefully bring herself together across all of these dimensional existences to focus herself with her mind powers to step through.
It's almost like it was pulling her apart, changing her density, and she has to collect herself to regain the density of her identity again.
Yes. Well, this is one of the things that I've gotten into arguments with people who want to say, "Oh, her origin's exactly the same." It's like, no, it's nothing like her origin. But thanks for playing. It's actually not dissimilar to the Ultimate Fantastic Four origin, which was actually meant to be a teleportation device that would essentially put a object through every possible incarnation it could have, and then bring it back out. So it's like an infinite probability drive, but for teleportation. For those of you who've read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and so you would just go through every single possible thing you could be, and then then all of a sudden you're at where you want to be. So and in that sense,
do you think you experience an eternity before you end up back, or is it instant to you?
I mean, it's one of those things where maybe you do, but maybe very few people can even remember that because that's a lot to take in.
Yeah, that's going to put miles on your brain.
Exactly. Sort of like when Barclay wakes up in the transporter beam and he realizes that, consciousness exists within the transporter beam, and he sees that, oh wow, there's other creatures that exist on the dimensional plane of being transported. And this is from Star Trek Next Generation. Wow. But yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's something that most people just don't even remember. But Barclay, because of the way his brain works, he actually sees it. And he's like, oh, that's scary. And, of course, everyone thought he was mad, too, until he actually captures one of the beings and brings them through in the transporter beam. And they go, whoa, you've got a weird, crazy monster fish with you. That's disturbing.
But hypothetically, those are things that have traveled, and these are shadows of the person left in the tracker beam?
No. Arguably, they're just a species that's just native to that quantum energy state. Yeah.
Wow.
Because, the idea being that, at least, my personal fan theory is that the transporters work on quantum superpositioning, and the idea is that you create an energy state within the object so that it can exist at all points in space at once, and then you coalesce it into one point in space through the beam, the energy beam of the transporter, and that's what puts it in its one spot. But that within that heightened energy state, there might be things that are alive out there. So
extremophiles that maybe perhaps this is like their Big Bang, and sort of like an entire universe exists in the instant that you're traveling. Because, like I said, there may be an eternity in there.
Exactly. And I think that's sort of what we're seeing, and I think that might be what Monica's going through as she brings herself through. But once she brings herself through, that's the big reveal. And this is the one thing that is true to Captain Marvel. Monica Rambeau's original comic book origin stories is after she comes through it, she looks at electrical wires and she sees the electromagnetic waves coming off of them. And she realizes she can see all this other spectrum of things. Or is that
the field of the magic?
No. What she's seeing, arguably what she's seeing is the electromagnetic spectrum, because, of course, as we know, CMBR, cosmic background radiation, cosmic microwave background radiation, is part of this universe's magical properties as well. So, yeah, it's the magic, but it's also the electricity. Like, magic and electricity aren't different things per se. And in fact, as an interesting aspect of this, I liked when Darcy is talking to Vision in the truck as she's giving Vision his history. And she says, well, how did she bring me back? And he's like, I'm a STEM girl. I just thought she flipped a switch in your head. But to an extent, that might be exactly what she did, where she connected something in his head and he came back online, because that's what needed to happen. She needed to use her energies to connect him back to the stone. And was that her intention? Is that just what happened? Because of course, for what it's worth, vibranium, which is what he's made out of, has the ability to absorb energies, meaning that the energies of the Mind Stone, the Time Stone, and possibly all the other stones, because they were there at the snap, are within his body. And if you knew to look there, you might be able to see the energy signatures of the snap. Sort of how when after nuclear bomb, that's one of the ways that they test the age of paintings, is they check the carbon-14 date, because things that happened after nuclear testing became common look remarkably different, because they absorb the background radiation from nuclear bomb testings. So, fun fact. So, which might be something else. Exactly, that's the thing to remember about Vision also, is that he is filled with vibranium, which is a very powerful, which is a material that absorbs energies and locks them in until they explode, literally. And so it goes into this idea that maybe what happened was, Wanda's working with Vision in this moment, or maybe even just trying to bury Vision in a safe place, maybe going to Agatha Harkness at Westview, say, I need to find a place where no one can find him. And I knew this was a place no one could find. And then, freaking Hayward goes there because he's got a GPS in Vision and drops some kind of bomb on them. And that's what causes it, And I don't know. I still believe that there was a bomb dropped on them. I think that all of the people there are in pain because of something Hayward did. Although we still have that central question of who was the witness, who was Jimmy Woo's witness, who was luckily at Westview. Unless, of course, that again goes into this idea of what is the broadcast. Because if Agnes is controlling the broadcast, that means Agnes was sending this image out to people intentionally. And maybe one of the things she was doing was reaching out to someone who might be able to help. And again, created this idea in their head that there was a witness here that they lost. Which is why no one remembered them when he asked about their known associates, because So what are you talking about? I don't know any guy named Ralph. So,
but she seems pretty like she has nefarious intentions when Wanda walks into that basement.
no. See, that's the thing. And again, I think that's misdirection.
Interesting.
Well, only because they have got me to look for it. It's like Ant-Man. And again, the important thing, like the first thing we see Jimmy Woo do is the card trick, where he makes his card appear. That close-up magic, which is all misdirection in how you fold your fingers. That he can do that tells us right away, look at what we are being told to look at. And nothing says, look at this, like a big musical number. Like her walking into the room and closing the doors. Someone had pointed out that when she walks into the basement, the aspect changes again. It goes to the aspect of the real world. And in that sense that this place, with all the vines, is a place that is technically in the real world. And this is where she can sort of approach Wanda on a more even footing. And so that sort of convey to her things.
So that leads me to believe that the hex does not go all the way around, that it's not, an enclosed structure, that it's simply just a dome. Because the basement is not under the hex, or it's just magic.
Yeah, it's magic. So it could be a hex within the hex. So you have the hex, and within the hex you have the Nexus hex. And I think that is the nexus of all realities that she takes her to. Because of the vines and because of the book. Now, a lot of people are saying the Darkhold, but we've already seen the Darkhold in this universe.
But we don't know that is necessarily part of this universe.
Well, we are strongly encouraged to think that the art design for the Darkhold would not change that dramatically. And that's what I'm saying. It's like the art design of that book, and that's what I say, the art design of that book, to me, looks like, and actually I think someone told me, it looks like a key.
Two keys.
Two keys. Maybe that was you, maybe that was Tristan, I'm not sure. But it looks like two keys, but what it also looks like, because they don't quite connect, it looks like the two circles.
They have like a thing in between them.
No, they don't connect, or it's not as bold where they connect. It's two circles and then the line down in between, and that is the design. That is a design for the Man-Thing. That is how the Man-Thing looks, and the Man-Thing is the guardian of the Nexus of Realities. So the idea of, I'm sorry,
what is the Man-Thing?
The Man-Thing was a scientist, I believe, named Ted Sallis, who was trying to recreate the super soldier serum. Basically injects himself with it when he gets attacked by Hydra agents, falls into the swamp, and there becomes one with the entity of the swamp, and eventually becomes the Man-Thing. And the Man-Thing is sort of a unspeaking heap. It's both the Swamp Thing and the Man-Thing are kind of based off of a character called the Heap, who is also kind of similar to Solomon Grundy. Which is this guy who's like mostly plant matter. And, but of course, the thing about the Man-Thing that made him different than most of them is he never speaks. He's like Bigfoot. He just walks through the swamp. And if you feel fear and he touches you, it burns. But if you're at peace, it actually heals your burns. So it's like, it'll remove the acid if you can focus yourself into peace. So it's just a weird thing about the Man-Thing.
Interesting.
All that knows fear burns at the touch of Man-Thing. Yes, because
his logo looks like
it looks a little like that because it's the two circles and that's his eyes. And then he's got this big root for a nose coming down. So the minute I saw that and saw all the roots in the cellar, and then we see when at our post-credits scene when Monica opens the storm cellar back entrance, we see these roots again, and now we're seeing that the purple energy is running throughout the roots. That makes me think of that Man-Thing energy, that Man-Thing reality of that swamp life force, and the idea that this is a nexus place, and possibly even meant to be like, similar to the way that the sanctums of the sorcerers are all connected, this could similarly be a similar kind of connection to all things. So that's my take on it. That's my belief in it. Like I said, it was Agnes all along gag. As much as I enjoyed it, it just seemed way too on the nose, and with the ending, and I killed Sparky too. It's like, you are just taunting us. You are asking me to take this at face value. I take none of this at face value. You know, that's the thing. It's like, it is a scene that is meant to have us go, wait a minute. It's sort of like the idea that, you know, anytime someone tells you to look at something, you should ask why. Or this is what I always say. Anytime someone tells you something that seems weird, you should always ask, why are you telling me this? Why are you telling me this? Why do you want me to know this detail? Because this detail seems a little odd to me. And it seems like you are trying to sell me something.
Or designed to elicit a reaction. What is the reaction you're seeking and why?
And when we think about, like, when we go back to Jimmy Woo's whiteboard, it's the exact same idea. The idea that, oh, here's all the things that all the nerds will be saying at this point. Why a hex? Why this? Why that? And they're just kind of mocking us, really. To put it to you very simply, they're just mocking us. It's a loving mocking. It's a roasting. You only roast the ones you love. But it's like, okay, we know that this thing is you guys are going to be scrambling for Easter eggs. You're going to be talking about Reed Richards, and you're not going to be looking for what is there. What is the thing that you're not thinking of? And that is why I always want to go, so, okay, what is the thing no one is talking about? And that's why I get to the man thing. Because it's like, you know what? This is one of those things where it's like, this was clearly meant to be seen because they focus on it. And everything everyone says seems odd to me because it seems too on the nose. It seems too much like, oh, that's what people are going, that's the easy answer. Now, sometimes the easy answer is the best answer. I was certain that when they had introduced the Kree in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that those were going to be Atlanteans, but that was not the case. They were the Kree. It was the low-hanging fruit. It was the easy answer, and that's what it was. But because we already saw the Darkhold, I don't think that's the Darkhold. Now, it could be the Book of Vishanti. It could be any number of other books, but the circles on it makes me think it might be the man thing. That's all I take from it, is like, you know, because that's sort of what that character looks like. It does make me think that that's the cover of the book with the man thing on it. And that's the book of the Nexus of Realities.
Oh, just the man thing book is the book of the Nexus of the Realities?
Well, no, well, or something like, it's a book about the Nexus of all realities, and at the Nexus of all realities is the Guardian.
Oh, okay.
Is the man thing. Because the Guardian of the Nexus is the man thing.
All right, yeah, that makes sense.
And fun fact, that could mean we'll get a Howard the Duck cameo. Because Howard the Duck, that's how Howard the Duck got to this universe, was he was pulled in from the Nexus of all realities and met the man thing. So Howard and man thing go way back.
Wow.
Yes. So, honestly, and that, like, to me, that's the kind of thing that my mind goes to when they say, there's going to be a cameo no one expected, and it's going to blow your mind. My mind goes to Howard the Duck. So
that would be cool. Who do you think would play Howard the Duck?
Oh, well, they already have a Howard the Duck in this universe. I don't know who's voicing him. It's probably Alan Tudyk, because it seems like that's who it would be.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, he's all CGI. He's a CGI character,
right?
You know, but he's easy to. He's delightful. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy, and he was in both Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's in Endgame. They apparently had him be one of the beings that comes into the final battle of Endgame, which is one of those moments that, like, why did they put Howard the Duck in there? I get that putting Howard the Duck as an Easter egg is a common thing in most big battle scenes in comic books, that we're just going to put him there. But in that it's all connected kind of universe, it makes you go, what's that? So for all we know, Howard the Duck is the one in controlling everything.
Wasn't Howard the Duck also in a display case in the Collector's?
Yes, that's his first appearance. He's there, and then he, like, speaks with the Collector at the end of it. after the collector's place blows up. And then we see Howard the Duck again in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 in the bar on, what was it? I forget the name of the bar that they go to, where all the Ravagers hang out. And Yondu gets called out by Sylvester Stallone. But yeah, so he's in that bar too. And then there is, I guess when you look at the big, all of the heroes come through the portals scene, like Howard the Duck is one of the ones running. So it's something to consider. That's all I'm saying.
I wouldn't mind that at all.
Okay. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
What did you think Monica's eyes glowing purple when she turned around after Pietro showed up behind her? What do you think that meant? Was she under Agatha's control or getting infected by the magic?
I think it was her seeing I think it was meant to be her seeing what's going on.
So it's her perceiving different energies that cause them to glow in different colors.
Exactly. So she's seeing, this is some purple energy stuff.
Yeah, because she didn't.
Purple energy stuff here.
Her facial expression didn't indicate that she was okay with it. She seemed startled and surprised, like, "Oh no!"
Yeah, which again makes me think. And so this is this thing. Like usually, like that last page of your comic, you get that misdirected ending, and sometimes they'll give you that teaser page for the next issue, and so it was like, next issue. Captain America dies for real, totally dead. I guarantee it, and then it's like, well, we were speaking of metaphorical death. There actually was just another guy in the Captain America costume. He dies next issue, but the death of Captain America. That idea of some big thing that's teased, and then when you get to it, it's like, well, we didn't lie. But you might not have bought the book if we didn't present it to you in that hyperdramatic way. So that all seems as a very hyperdramatic end scene.
Yeah. That's
meant to get you to tune in next week as if we needed the urging. And I don't, like I said, I don't think anything we are seeing that we're taking at face value should be. I think everything about this, we should always try to say, but what else could it be? If my first instinct is say it's X, I should look for Y. I should try to solve for Y. Because if they want me to see X, that means I need to figure out why they want me to see X. So anyway, I'm sorry. What?
Why are you telling me this?
Why am I telling you this?
No. Why are they telling us this?
Exactly. Sorry, I might have been having some trouble hearing you there. I do not have tweaked audio headsets. The fine, low-cost, high-quality headsets that you yourself and all of our listeners can buy if they go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate at checkout to get a great discount on the high-quality audio gear that they might buy. Likewise, they can use that same discount code Southgate at checkout at huntingkiller.com, where they will get essentially an escape room delivered to their house, a bunch of great puzzles and clues to help, the narrative is to help Michelle Gray solve a cold case. And that sounds like fun for the whole family, quite frankly. And then, of course, you can always go down to our show notes, click on the link to Amazon, go to Amazon, buy whatever the heck you want. I don't care, because it costs you nothing. It helps out the show, and it's always a good thing. And while you're there, check out Pod Life, the book written by the Southgate Media Group community about why we podcast, how we podcast, and when we podcast. I don't know. Pod Life, the book. It's available both in a nice paperback version for those of you who want that knowledge for when society falls, and for those who think society will continue on forever unabridged, or at least while you're alive, you can just do a digital download of the book as well for your Amazon Kindle or other reading device. Anyway, if anyone does any of this, Mozz, and they'd like to reach out to you and talk to you about it, how can they find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way our Mozz and Paz once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet DuckTales, Monday nights at 7, as I just did last Monday, because it was the return of new episodes of the final season of DuckTales, at Charlie Esser. That's CHARLIE. Yes, SCR. Look for the 2 E's in the middle. For what?
For quality. Ding.
Thank you, Mozz. And thank you, Tristan, for the in-house sound as well. All right, me hearties. It's been another week sailing the turbulent seas of the MCU. Join us again next week as we once again sail full stream ahead. Arg.